Okay, so we talked about application load balancers and targets, target groups, and all that stuff, right? Fun stuff. So now what we'll do is let's talk about a concept called auto scaling. So as the name says, so you need to understand, so as an architect, you need to understand, we kind of understood that so far we talked about resiliency, durability. Durability, we talked about it with S3, 11 nines, and availability. So you guys know availability. So that's why we have these availability zones in different, regions, availability zones within a single region. So different availability zones. So you as an architect must be very cognizant of this availability. So even if one availability zone is down, you want to make sure your application is up and running. And as an architect, especially cloud architect, always expect expect the system to be down. Okay. That's about the availability. And now we're talking about scalability. What exactly is meant by scalability? Well, you talk about scaling, you may be able to, how many users can you serve simultaneously? That's essentially, scaling. So what's your requirement? How many users do you have to serve, or how many users are coming at concurrently to your website? So let's say there are average about 40 requests per second. You found out from your testing, from your load testing in company, that to sustain this 40 requests per second load, I need 2 EC2 instances. So you set up your 2 EC2 instances. And you have two kinds of scenarios here. What if one of the EC2 instances is down? Okay, I want my EC2 instances to be able to resurrect automatically. So somebody has to realize that this EC2 instance is down, and then, okay, this guy has a requirement that he needs 2 instances all the time, minimum of 2, right? So one of them is down. Okay, let me go spin up a new instance and exactly same based on your AMI. So AMI is where all of your code is solid, deployed code. Okay. So your code is already deployed, and you took an Amazon machine image and put it out there, and you are going to say that to this guy, this auto scaling group, that, hey, I need 2 instances at any time. I need a minimum of 2, or I'll say I need minimum of 5. If one of them is down or a couple of them are down, you go create brand new instances and then put them into load balancer. You can do that. Or that is one scenario. The other scenario is you can scale up and down, meaning you from your load testing perspective, you found out that one server can take average of 40 requests per second. So let's say your load balancer realized that the auto scaling group realized that, okay, this guy is taking, I'm now flooded with 500 requests per second. I only have 5 of them running. So let me go spin up few more instances and add them to the pool. That's a second scenario. So like your Black Friday scenario. So generally you may be okay to, you will be able to survive with 5 EC2 instances but for Black Friday, you need to be able to survive the Black Friday traffic. But you don't want to make a static call saying that maybe I need 500 instances. You don't need to make a static call. You don't need to guess your traffic. Okay. from your load testing perspective, at least get an idea how many requests per second a server can handle. Based on that, you extrapolate it. You just say that, you know, as soon as it can handle 40 requests per second, as soon as the 41st guy come in, then okay, it will, if you don't have enough servers there, it will create a new server based on your AMI, and it will exactly add it to the pool. That's what it is. So that is called auto scaling. So, and it's not only scaling up, even when you scale down. So on Black Friday, you have huge hit, and then you know, it spun up from 50 instances to 1,000 instances. But next morning, you know, Saturday after that, you have to come back. You have to come back to whatever that minimum threshold is. You can specify that, saying that, you know, I'm good with 50. Come back to 50. So that's all about, you know, scaling up, scaling down. You can all do that using auto scaling. So let's go ahead and click on this launch configuration. So auto scaling, when you configure your auto scaling, you always start with launch configuration, meaning you are launching the configuration. Meaning when new instances need to be created, how do you want me to create it? Go to my AMIs. You already created it. It's my gold web server, right? So select this guy, configure, and then you create an, you know, this launch configuration name. You say that launch configuration, my web server's launch configuration. Okay. There is something else called spot instances. Maybe I'll talk about it briefly later. So I don't need any IAM role, monitoring, advanced details. Okay. Nope, I don't need any of this. So add storage, 8 gig is fine. Security group, let's add them to the web server security group, review. And then pretty much I'm creating the launch configuration. Launch configuration is nothing but what AMI do I want to use it, how much storage that I want to use it, what security groups do I want to use it. So all of that are specified in this launch configuration. This configuration is all set now. Once I have this configuration is set, then I can set up my auto scaling group in such a way that, hey, use this configuration and scale up and down. That's all we are saying. It's that simple. Create launch configuration and sure, what key pair you want to use it. So now view your launch configurations. You have one launch configuration. So luckily you already have an AMI out there, your gold web server AMI. Okay. So this is your launch configuration. And now using the launch configuration, now you can create your auto scaling group. So you can select this one, create an auto scaling group, or you can say auto scaling groups here, go to auto scaling group and then say create a auto scaling group. And you can select your existing launch configuration, or you can create a new launch configuration. So I'm selecting my launch configuration and saying that, okay, let's go to next step and auto scaling group. I'll call this web servers, web servers ASG auto scaling group. I'll create it and use this web servers launch configuration and start with how many instances do you want me to start with? Start with one instance, or if you know, I need to start this guy with 5 instances, you can set that up. Okay. And then network is your default VPC. And when I create an instances, automatically, when Amazon creates these instances automatically, where do you want me to put them? Amazon is, it's so intelligent that it will automatically create these instances and distribute them across all these availability zones. It will not make the same mistake that we did earlier, that we created all the instances in a single availability zone. It will distribute them all, distribute these EC2 instances across all these availability zones. So here you are specifying that please create these EC2 instances within these availability zones. So that's why I highly recommend you give all of them here. And let's go to advanced details. And here, do you want this to be part of load balancer? Receive traffic from one or more load balancers? Yes. So I want these newly created EC2 instances to be part of my auto scaling, to be part of my load balancer, sorry. So, and this is your classic load balancers. We talked about, these are used when you're migrating from your, existing data centers where you have some session stickiness. We don't have that scenario here. We are having a target group go there. And then see here, it automatically populated. We have a target group called web servers. Remember that? We created it. And now health check type. So what do you want me to check? So how can I make sure the health check? So is it an EC2 instance or ELB? Meaning ELB, by the way, is elastic load balancing. So how do you want me to check? If EC2 instance is down, that's when I will consider as down. That is what EC2 means. Or I will use your load balancer health checks there and say, I'll make the same /health check.html to see if it's up or down. That's what it is. Health check grace period. So this grace period is essentially, it will warm up. So the length of time that auto scaling waits before checking an instance health status. So it will wait for 5 minutes by default to start checking the health status. Is that okay? Go for 30 seconds, for our this demo purpose. Monitoring is fine. Instance protection. Protect from scale in. Instance protection, we'll talk about this again. I'll talk about that. Service link role, we don't need it. Configure now, configuration. Create auto scaling group. Keep this group at its initial size. We put the initial size as 1, right? If you remember the previous, start with 1 instances, right? So that's your initial size. You can say that. Keep this group at its initial size. If you have a fixed traffic, and if you know what your load is, hey, I only have a simple rule here. My simple case, I know I have a consistent traffic and I need 5 EC2 instances all the time. Look for it. If things go south at any time, spin up a new EC2 instance and add it to the pool. If that's all, if your requirement is that simple, then you can do that. Or you can go to this next level, use scaling policies to adjust the capacity of this group. So here you can specify scale between 1 and, let's say, 10 instances. So this is where I can specify that, okay, by default, or actually why 1? Always have more than 1, right? Because you have to think about your availability. So let's say 3 to 10, between 3 and 10. So it starts with 3, and then you have to specify your metrics here. Okay, when do I spin new EC2 instance? Okay, is it a CPU utilization? Is it an average CPU utilization? Or is it a application load balancer request count per target? As I told you, you found out from your load balancing, your load test, that each target or each web server can take up to 40. If that's what your requirement is, specify that and then say target value is 40. So, meaning if anyone is taking more than 40, let's say there are 3 servers out there, so I'm able to support 120 requests per second. Sorry, yeah, 120 concurrent requests per target, right? So let's say there is a 121st request, then it will identify that, okay, so my metric is 40. Okay, now the next guy came in. Okay, let me spin up a new instance and add it to the pool. You can do that. Or you can go with the average CPU utilization. With the average CPU utilization means if CPU goes up, then things are definitely going south. You know, if CPU utilization is more than 80%, then that means it's that CPU, that machine will be dead very soon. So you better be prepared. You can find out why it's going up. Maybe it's a genuine reason traffic is like that, you know, or there is something else going on in the code. We can find out all of that, but first scale it up, create new instances and add it to the pool. Okay, so what it is saying is this particular configuration here, if my average CPU utilization of this EC2 instance is going above 80%, then create a new EC2 instance and add it to the load balancer is what we are saying. So scale group size, you can give auto scaling group based on auto scaling group, let's say CPU utilization. Okay, I'm giving a name to this group name. So instance need, do they need any warm up after scaling? Give a 30 seconds warm up, meaning for you know, anything cache coming up, bootstrapping coming up, anything to other things to come up. So you do that, and you can specify the disable scale in, meaning once things start to cover it, like a midnight, you know, when people are not using it, obviously your CPU usage will come down. At that time, it will automatically scale in. Scale in means it's scaled down. But if you check this mark, then what you're saying is you are disabling the scaling. You're only scaling up. Okay. This is another simple way, but you can go with this scale the auto scaling group using step or simple scaling policies. There is something else called scaling policies. So now with the scaling policies, you can specify that so with the scaling policies, you can specify that we didn't talk about, I know we didn't talk about the CloudWatch alarms. There is something else called CloudWatch. CloudWatch is a monitoring service. So you can configure your CloudWatch that, hey, if EC2 instances, you know, some CPU utilization go above 80%, then raise an alarm. When that alarm comes up, then start increasing the group size. You can create an additional alarm to decrease the group size. If my CPU comes back to below 50%, then start to decrease it. If my CPU goes above 80%, start to increase it. This is how you can do it. Or you can go back to the simple, you can go back to the, oops, this one. See this one? Scale the auto scaling group using a target tracking scaling policy. This is a target tracking scaling policy. You can go with this one. Target value is 80, meaning if 80%, if it is more than 80%, if average CPU utilization is more than 80%, then scale up. Okay. And you can do that, or you can provide your scale up or scale up down configurations. One way or the other, you can specify scale between minimum group size must not be greater than, okay, because we said minimum is at start with 1, right? So start with 1. And when an auto scaling group auto scales it, do you want anybody to notify it? configure your auto scaling group to send notifications to a specified endpoint, such as email address, whenever a specified event takes place, including successful launch of an instance or failed instance, all of that, failed instance launch, any of that. Go to configure tags. I don't worry about the tags. Just go ahead and review it. So your policy is ASG CPU utilization, maintain metric type average CPU utilization at target value 80 with 30 seconds for instance to warm up. You can do that. So this is how you will create it. Okay. Okay, it's doing something. Let's go check. So go to, if you go to EC2 dashboard, running instances, okay, nothing happened yet. So go to your auto scaling and go to auto scaling group. That's where you will specify, and then go to activity history, launch a new EC2 instance. Okay, let's take a look at it. It failed. Description, launching a new EC2 instance, status reason, access denied when attempting to assume role. Okay, validating load balancer failed. A user request created an auto scaling group, changing the desired capacity from 0 to 1. An instance was started, response. So we created, actually we did not assume a role. So when we created an auto scaling group from the launch configuration, we did not give a role. So let's go, we can modify it. Actually, where is the, no, let's go create a new one. We'll use this configuration. Nope, this is not in auto scaling group. So let's go look at the launch configurations. Can I edit? Let's go ahead and edit or create a launch configuration, no problem. So my AMIs, select configure details. See this one here? So IAM role, there are no, okay, I'll give the role. I want IAM roles to assume it. So I'll have to create a new IAM role and have this assume. Let's go check what's happening with activity. Hey, now it's, it failed and now it's successful. Let's 11:48 and 11:50. Okay, there you go. Oh, it's successful. Okay. So what was the initial reason for that? AWS service role for auto scaling. Validating load balancer configuration failed. Okay, access denied to start with. Okay, launching a new EC2 instance. Look at the activity history. At this time, an instance was started in response to a difference between desired and actual capacity, increasing the capacity from 0 to 1. So we already had an EC2 instance out there, but auto scaling group doesn't care about it. It will maintain its own pool. Okay. So to start with, there are no instances, and then we said our desired capacity is 1. So it went ahead and created an instance. Now what we can do is, it's a min to max. So let's go to EC2 dashboard. You should find an additional, this is ours, web server 1 is ours. And this guy has been created by your auto scaling group. And then see, it's web servers SG, and you have your, let's go ahead and connect to your auto scaling group. EC2 instance created by auto scaling. You have your health check, index.html, everything. It's not you created it, of course, but one thing is, your Apache is not running. So then if I create, okay, if auto scaling group automatically creating an EC2 instance without starting an Apache, that's bad, right? I agree, it's bad. So what good does it do when it creates an EC2 instance, but it did not start Apache? So that's where you have to use your Bootstrap scripts as part of your launch configuration. There you can specify your Apache. Make sure my Apache is always running. Okay. So I can show you that, but before that, let's go to target groups. This is your load balancer, target groups. There you go. It automatically launched an EC2 instance, and then it automatically launched an EC2 instance and added to our target group. That is the beauty. Of course, it's in the target deregistration is in progress because this guy, it's in unhealthy state because Apache is not running. So if we have this Apache running, right, we can see that that will be up and running. So what we'll do is, to start with, I will get back to it. How can I fix this one? Because there is no point in having an EC2 instance automatically get created by auto scaling, and then my Apache is not running. It doesn't make sense, right? So I agree with you. Service HTTPD start. I agree with you. We'll fix that one. So we'll just wait, and then but also another point that you have to fix is, everyone says that I'm in server 1. Okay, everyone goes to your index.html, says that you're in server 1, right? But this problem we can't really solve it. The reason is, you have to deploy your code in such a way that your real production code, it may be talking to database and get the data from there, right? This is just a static. I wanted to show you that. So okay, let's go back to auto scaling groups. Okay. So launching a EC2 instance, waiting for ELB connection draining and not yet in service. So it's successful, waiting for ELB connection, terminating EC2 instance, waiting for ELB connection. An instance was taken out of service in response to a ELB health check failure. Did you see that? So ELB health check. So ELB said that, hey, this guy is bad. Okay, that is why. So ELB said that, hey, this is unhealthy. As soon as load balancer says that this is unhealthy, it responded to that, and actually it's terminating it. It's creating a brand new one. But we will continue to be in this cycle. You know why? Because we are not starting up Apache. That's the problem. Okay, so let's fix the root cause of the problem. So what we'll do is, let's since we created the auto scaling group, let's go ahead and delete this auto scaling group. Okay, and let's go to launch configuration. We'll do this again. So what we will do is actions, delete launch configuration also. So now let's go ahead and create a launch configuration. My AMIs, my web server, this guy. My web server's launch configuration, advanced details, user data. So this is where we need to set it, right? So you guys know this one, right? So let's go to our website. and your go to Unix commands. See this one here. Check config HTTPD on. This is the one that will do it. Check config. So actually, first of all, start here. So HTTPD. Let's do this one. So let's go to, okay. So what we'll do is we have your bash, m update. We don't need to do an m update. And install HTTPD. I don't need to because it's coming from AMI. And all I'm doing is service HTTPD start and making sure that the check config HTTPD on will make sure that Apache is running in case this machine is restarted. Okay. So just change this one. Storage is fine. Security group is fine. Web server says G review. Let's go and create launch configuration. Okay. So we created launch configuration. Okay. Create an auto scaling group from this guy. Group name web server say SG. Start with one instance is fine. Select all of them, all the availability zones and advanced details. Health check grace period. Check every 30 seconds, please. Okay. Only wait for 30 seconds before you start doing it. Instance protection. I don't need any of this. Keep this group at its initial size. Nope. I want to do this between 1 and 10 instances. Okay. And average CPU utilization, once it goes above 80%, please do that. CPU based ASG. And wait for 30 seconds. You know, just wait for 30 seconds warm up. Configuration, review. Okay.
The name already exists.
Where do you see that?
On the top.
Auto scaling group by this name already exists. Okay, already auto scaling group. Huh? I see. Web server says G2. Yeah. Oops. Do I have my scaling policies? Yep, 80% notifications tags auto scaling group. Okay, it's getting up. So, oh, my previous one is still getting deleted. Sorry, guys. Okay, that's the problem. So, let's see. So instances 1, desired 1, minimum 1. This one. Launching a new EC2 instance. It's not yet in service. Sure, no problem. Let's go to dashboard. By the way, when you delete an auto scaling group, it will delete the stuff with that. So if there are 10 in EC2 instances that auto scaling group created it, all 10 will be deleted once you delete an auto scaling group. Okay. So this guy is getting deleted, and this is the one that's a newly created one. Let's go connect to it. Let's wait.
I think this is the one that is getting deleted and the upper one is getting initialized.
Sorry, can you say that again?
I said the one that you were trying to launch was getting deleted.
Ah, yes, yes. This is the one that's getting initialized. Thank you. So let's do that. Very good. Let's make sure our code is fine. Nice, it's working. Now let's go to auto scaling group. Okay, the other one is gone. Let's take a look at activity history. It's launching an EC2 instance. Sure. And now let's go to target group. Target group, targets. Okay, only one, sure. So because it's waiting for the 30 seconds to be, let's wait. Because we said, let's wait for 30 seconds. Oh, we did not specify ALB there. I may not have specified ALB there in the rush. Did I select an ALB there? The advanced details, instance protection, nope. I want this to be added as part of, let's see. Launch configuration, desired availability on the classic load balancers. The target group. I did not select this target group. See here. So once you create it, add it to the target group is what I did not. And the health check type is also, I want to say that ELB, and the health check grace period is 30. This is good. Default cooldown is 300, 5 minutes cooldown. That's fine. Let's go to activity history. Nope. Because it reached the desired capacity. Okay, there you go. Updating load balancer at target group successful. So it said that whatever the newly created EC2 instance, and now updating load balancer and target groups. So let's go to target groups. Targets, there you go. Your new guy is added and it is healthy. It is healthy. Okay, and in fact, this is the only one healthy. That's interesting. So now let's go to application load balancers. Load balancers. This is my DNS name. Configure that guy, get it. So in fact, this is the one that's created by application, auto scaling group. This is the one that's created by auto scaling group. Now what you can do is log into one of these EC2 instances. Okay. Log into EC2 instance and then crank up the CPU. Because our auto scaling group policy is that if you crank up above 80% of CPU, average CPU utilization, once it crosses 80%, that's when it will create a new EC2 instance and add it to the load balancer, right? So you can crank up the CPU. You can write some piece of code, put it in a while loop, infinite while loop, and then make sure this CPU goes up above 80%, and then you will see that it's new ones get added. Because what did we mention here? In the auto scaling group, we said that you can go from 1 to 10. You can go from 1 till 10. Okay. So yeah, I believe that's all. That's all to it with the auto scaling group. And in auto scaling group, from exam perspective, there is another important aspect there called termination policies. When I terminate it, when auto scaling automatically terminates an EC2 instance, there are some policies out there. What's the default termination policy and all? They'll talk about it. We'll see. We'll look at that later. But essentially, that's what I wanted to show. And I also wanted to show you a little more. In fact, I want to log into this and crank up the CPU, and how will it automatically add it? I wanted to show that because its minimum is 1, maximum is 10, right? So that one, first digest these facts so far, okay? And then there are a couple of services like a CloudWatch and CloudTrail. Especially the CloudWatch is for alarms. Monitoring, we need that. the CloudWatch and the notifications and all. I'll talk about it, and then we log into EC2 instance and crank up with a simple while loop, infinite while loop, and I'll show you how it can go, and how auto scaling group will kick in. So I will show you that tomorrow morning. I will leave it at that.
Steven, sir?
Yes.
So question. So do I have an option to schedule auto scaling group to become active? Let's say I want this auto scaling group to kick in only during the business hours, and after business hours, don't do anything. Do I have an option like that?
Can I schedule an auto scaling group? Actually, that's a good point. Oops, sorry.
Let's say even in your example, like only on Black Friday, let's say afternoon to midnight, I want this auto scaling, and after that, just kill everything.
Okay, yeah. So what you can do is, yes, you can do that. You have to. This is based on the notifications, right? So you can do based on the triggering points. So the CloudWatch alarm goes off. So make sure you have your CloudWatch alarm goes off at that specific time. You create a new alarm, CloudWatch alarm. So once that goes off, then have your auto scaling group kick in. So I will show you that. Meaning, how do I create, not just scheduling, but how do I create overall based on use scaling policies. See here, do not select this group, keep this group at its initial state. Use scaling policies to adjust the capacity of this group, and then click on this guy. And then here, so you have to create an alarm for that, okay? So you have to create an alarm here, okay? Time-based alarm. And then as soon as that alarm goes off, then increase your space. Or create another time-based alarm and then decrease your group size. This is how you do that. Or if you have, see, CPU is one of the metric, right? But maybe you want to do on something else. So create a CloudWatch alarm, okay? And then as soon as that alarm goes off based on whatever the metric that you specified, increase your group size or decrease your group size. You can do that. Okay. So this is these are the CloudWatch alarms. So we'll talk about probably yeah, we'll talk about the complete CloudWatch and CloudTrail. I have to talk about it, the important ones. I'll give you my video. But essentially, yes, that's how you do that. But why do you want to do that? I mean, for all practical purposes, right? Let's talk about architect to architect conversation, right? I don't think I want to do that. I want to do based on. I don't want to do based on my timing. I rather want to use any of these metrics. Okay, so look for CPU utilization is one of the best ways you can do it. Or based on your load testing results, you might have found out that what's the capacity that each EC2 instance can accommodate. So based on that, you can trigger your alarms, and then based on the alarm, you can go up and down auto scaling group. Make sense? Does it make sense? Why? I mean, how it can be done? Yes, it can be done, but why you may not want to do that? Because I mean, it's again kind of guessing game, right? I'm either underutilizing or overutilizing, right? So yeah, that's kind of against the cloud best practices. There is a AWS AWS architecting for the cloud. Architecting for the cloud. Architecting for the cloud. AWS best practices. There's a white paper out there. So if you please, I highly recommend watch, you guys. Read that. Architecting for the cloud. Architecting for the cloud. I can send you this. There is a lot more architecture diagrams. No, well architected framework. Yep, AWS well architected framework. So there is AWS well architected. So this is very important one, and here he'll mention why it's a bad idea to kind of do that way. Why do you want to traditional, when you have this elasticity, why you don't want to do it that way? Rather, actually there's a nice diagram somewhere. Yeah, he will show how your usage can grow. I don't know, this one maybe 2020. The previous one had that nice diagram. This is your actual projection, okay? But you're always guessing it. You don't want to guess it, either with the time, either with anyway. So yeah. And for the exam, this is very important too, reading it. But I don't want to do that. I will not prefer doing that for that reason. Any other questions? Is it too much?
Seriously, too much. Need to look at your videos now to digest this again. For me.
Yeah, it's and let me stop recording actually.